Is Israel waging a war against aid in Gaza? On Wednesday morning, Israel announced that it will be suspending over 36 aid organisations currently working in Gaza. The deregistration of 37 groups, including Doctors Without Borders, the Norwegian Refugee Council and divisions of Oxfam, was for failing to meet new rules for aid groups working in the enclave. But these rules, which include sharing extensive personal data, such as full employee lists and sensitive details on Palestinian staff members, is a red flag for many of the organisations working on the ground.
Simply, we cannot comply with these rules and these registration requirements because it imposes dangerous data sharing requirements, as well as broad political, ideological conditions unrelated to humanitarian work and to the operating humanitarian organizations. These key requirements really include the forced transfer of sensitive personal information and personal data of Palestinian staff, not just that Palestinian staff, but as well as their family, their children, their spouses, for opaque security vettings that Israeli authority has not really clarified to any of the humanitarian organizations. It also include and subject humanitarian organizations to vague political criteria, alleged delegitimizing activities.
The rules have also raised alarms for contravening EU data protection standards, particularly GDPR and potentially EU human rights obligations, by putting employees in harm's way.
Complying with these requirements will result in endangering our staff and our colleagues operating currently in Gaza, especially within a context that has been described the most dangerous context for humanitarian workers.
Since October 2023, more than 500 aid workers have been killed in Gaza, along with at least 1,500 health workers, despite the fact that they are protected under the Geneva Convention and the targeting of such individuals constitutes a war crime. Israel denies deliberately targeting such personnel. Aid organisations are not peripheral actors in Gaza. Over the last 2 years, they have become the backbone of civilian survival. More recently, they've been on the front lines responding to winter floods that have devastated displacement camps across Gaza, working to distribute tents, tarpaulins and warm clothes to the 1.3 million people still requiring urgent shelter support.
INGOs serve as a lifeline to the population of Gaza, and the humanitarian catastrophe, the level of that is just really unspeakable. So the deregistration will have massive, life-threatening, actually, impact on the residents currently in the Strip.
Yet it's not the first time that Israel has cracked down on international humanitarian organisations. Throughout the war, Israel has accused the UN Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, of being infiltrated by Hamas, a claim that both the UN and UNRWA denies. Furthermore, Israel has consistently dug its heels surrounding the sending of much-needed aid provisions into the Strip. As of December 2025, only 20% of the mandated aid trucks have been let into Gaza, and the Rafah crossing, a key entry point into Gaza from Egypt, remains closed. The suspension of these 37 organisations will thereby further choke an already strangled pipeline.
This deregistration process and the requirements should be perceived within that context of intentional, systemic process to cripple the humanitarian process in Gaza. Oxfam and other humanitarian organizations have engaged with the Israeli authority, and we have proposed multiple alternative arrangements to address the Israeli concerns while protecting staff and maintaining principled operation. But all of these alternatives have been refused. We believe that no humanitarian organization should be forced to choose between protecting our own staff and delivering life-saving assistance.
This latest move by Israel underscores just how precarious life still is in Gaza. With aid organisations being suspended, crossings still closed, and violations of the ceasefire happening regularly, both civilians and those trying to help them face an uphill battle in trying to survive and deliver essential services. For the millions of people already living in extreme hardship, the new year brings not just uncertainty, but the very real risk that the aid they depend on may no longer be reaching them.